Hi, my name is Spencer, and I am a health educator with MHW. In this video series, I'm going to walk you through how to set up a meal plan. We're going to cover how to lose weight, how to keep the weight off long term, and most importantly, what do you need to do if you want to adjust your plan? If you're getting bored, if you're not losing weight, if you're unhappy for some reason, or if you have a temporary challenge like a holiday or a vacation, or you're going through a death in your family or something like that, how do you adjust your plan when it's not working or you're not happy with it so that you don't have to just give up altogether and you can keep moving forward? Before we get into the video, I want to say two things. The first is, I don't mind if you never pursue one of our programs, if you never go to the website, if you never watch any more of our videos, if you never spend a penny with us. The stuff that we're going to go over in these videos is going to be practical advice that should apply to any weight loss effort. Whether you're going to start a diet, whether you're looking at a new exercise plan, whether you're thinking about surgery or something like that long term. The advice that we give here will be practical advice that will apply to almost everybody, and will give you the power to start doing these things on your own. So even if you never pursue anything through us, that's okay. The advice that we're going to put through in this video series should still be helpful for you, and I hope that you think about it at the very least, even if you aren't going to pursue one of our plans directly. The second thing that I want to say before we even get started is that the people who are the best at managing their weight long term are not the people with the best diets or the best exercise plans or the best genetics or the best health or the most money or the best doctors. The people who do the best at losing weight and keeping it off long term are the people with the best support system. How do you stay motivated? If you're feeling like you're getting ready to give up, who do you go to get inspiration? How do you stay accountable? If you know that you're not going to keep yourself in check, who's going to keep an eye on you and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to? How do you get ideas? Where do you go for recipes? Where do you go for advice? If you have a new challenge that you haven't faced before, you're going to a restaurant for the first time, where do you go to get that information? The people who do the best long term are the ones who have the best resources to be able to get that advice when they need it. So my first tip before we even get into anything else is to figure out who your support system's going to be. It can be friends, it can be family, you might have a doctor, you might have a personal trainer, you might have a partner who's going to go through this process with you, but it also might be an online forum. It might be a YouTube channel that you go to. It might be a place where you can interact and get advice digitally, and you never meet this person face to face. It might be us. Maybe we can be part of the support system for you, but make sure that you know where that support system is going to be and who you're going to turn to when you have questions and you need help. I say that especially before we start this video series because there's a decent chance you're going to have questions about the things that we cover here. And I want you to know that's normal. And when you do have those questions, you should check out our website and you should figure out how to get in contact with our office. Whether that means sending us an email or leaving a comment on our YouTube channel or actually finding our schedule for when we live stream so that you can ask a question directly to us and we can face-to-face right there get your questions answered. That is where the most success is going to come from. Hopefully everything we go through in these videos makes sense and it might click right away for you and you'll be ready to hit the ground running, but there's a good chance you're going to have questions at some point down the line. I can almost guarantee it. So get that good support system. That's all I have to say before we get into the series. Now let's get started. Hi, I wanted to make a quick video after I finished the series on creating your own custom weight loss plans. When I was reviewing some of the stuff that I put together there, it felt like I didn't talk enough about the purpose of meal replacements and the function that meal replacements actually take. Specifically, when I first heard about MHW and I got involved with the program, I had two big questions. Number one was, is it going to taste good? Because if it doesn't, no one's going to do it. Number two was, what do I do long term? Okay, I eat these meals, I drink these shakes, I lose the weight. What happens when I get to my goal? What if I want to cook? What if I want to go to restaurants? I want to take more of these choices into my own hands. Are we really getting people prepared for the long term if we have them use these meal replacements? And I'd like to just touch briefly on both of those in this video here, real quick. First, as far as taste goes, you are expected to customize everything you eat. You are going to have to find the right fruits and vegetables. You're going to have to look at different ways of cooking things. You're going to have to look at sauces and spices. Sometimes you'll want to do things that are really extravagant and fancy and interesting, and other times you want to do less work. And you should have a variety of recipes that allow you to touch the whole spectrum there. Some things you're going to like, some things you're not going to like, some things you will like when you experiment with them. For the meal replacements that we sell directly, I think they all taste pretty good, but most people who I work with will find a couple that they don't like, that they never eat, and that's okay. And they'll find a couple that are their favorites that they cycle back to more than any of the others, and that's also okay. Just keep an open mind as you're experimenting. Know that you're going to have to customize a little bit. Also know that there's a lot of variety that's out there now. Even 10 years ago, we did not have the amount of meal replacements, the amount of sauces, spices, sugar-free and fat-free options, and the options that we did have did not taste very good. And I'm only going back 10 years ago now. I remember when I first started doing this work, there was no good sugar-free barbecue sauce that was on the market. There was no low-calorie barbecue sauce option. It was one of my biggest regrets with a particular client. He just kept asking me for barbecue sauce, and there wasn't one. It didn't exist at the time. And this is just going back 10 years. If you go back 20, 30, 40 years, I wouldn't be surprised if you tried some shakes one time that were bad, real bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if you ate a veggie burger that tasted like cardboard. I know that stuff existed, but over time, the science has gotten a lot better. The food science, the kinds of recipes that are out there, and the options you have for experimentation have improved infinitely, exponentially. It's amazing how much better stuff there is now. I'm even at the point now in my career where I'm running into clients that I coached early on, and I have brand new stuff. The way that I would approach certain situations when I first started coaching them is entirely outdated. I have entirely brand new ideas and recipes and suggestions that I get to put forward now. So keep that open mind, keep experimenting. Stuff tastes a lot better now than it did, but also know that you do have to customize some things. It is my mission with the website and with the custom plans that we do and with the live stream to be constantly out there in the marketplace, personally, finding new stuff that I can share with you guys. I'm trying really hard not to repeat ideas when I do those meal plans, and to put anything new that I find on the website so that you have access to it. So if nothing else, if you'd like to cycle back and check out the website, or if you'd like to sign up for our email list so that you get notifications of the new things we're finding, I can highly recommend that. But that's what I got to say about the taste of meal replacements. There's just lots of options, and you just got to experiment a little bit, find what works for you. Now, the bigger question, and for you guys, the more important question I hope that you were asking, is what do we do long term? Am I going to be dependent on these meal replacements? I actually had a few clients who felt like it was cheating. They said something along the lines of, Spencer, I've got to learn to do this on my own. I'm never going to be successful if I can't do this on my own. And I want to respond to that just by saying, if you choose not to use meal replacements, that's the one part of the creating your plan video that you may elect to do. I don't recommend it, especially if you've struggled with weight loss for a long time, and especially if you have a big goal, an important reason for trying to lose weight. But that is something that you could do. You could say, I'm not going to use any of these shakes or entrees at all. I'm going to do all my own preparations. Okay. You may also say, as you get closer to your goal, I want to use fewer and fewer meal replacements, and I want to do more of my own things. I'm okay with that as well. A good many of my clients, as they get closer to their goal, aren't using any more entrees or choose not to use the shakes except for very specific circumstances. There are so many cases where we just don't use as many meal replacements as we did before. I personally tend to cycle, meaning in the summertime when there's more ice cream around, I drink a lot more meal replacement shakes because I like those milkshakes. And in times where I need fast and convenient meals, I do a lot more entrees. Of course, if I start gaining weight and creeping up on the scale, then I use a lot more of both. But it's okay if you're not using as many as you were. It's okay if you get to a point where you don't want to use any at all. The thing that I need to stress to you if you're watching this video is if you choose not to use meal replacements, you still have to solve all of the problems that meal replacements solve. It's okay if you choose not to use them, but you have to find other stuff that does what they do. So, a couple of examples. You need things that are replacements for the high-calorie foods. I love macaroni and cheese. I don't cook my own macaroni and cheese anymore. I have a meal replacement, a prepared frozen macaroni and cheese that I like, that I can go to if I ever get that craving. You have to find that substitution. If you're not going to use a prepared meal, you have to find your own healthy version of macaroni and cheese, or you have to find something else that you can eat that makes it so you don't crave the macaroni and cheese. Okay? But that's a choice that you can make. It just means more experimentation, more cooking, more time in the kitchen. But if that's fun for you, do it. Do it. Absolutely do it. If I want ice cream, I have a direct substitution for that. As I just said, I make more milkshakes in the summertime using meal replacement shakes. And I like them, and they taste good, and they take away my craving for ice cream. It's a direct replacement for me. If you like pizza, if you like burgers, if you like chips, if you like alcohol, if you like, I don't know, fatty ranch dressing, it's all good. If you don't want to use meal replacements, but you do have to find the replacements for that. Okay, absolutely, you have to figure out what is going to replace those in a healthy way for you. And probably it will take a little bit more time, it'll take a little bit more energy to find those things. And when you do find those things, it'll take a little bit more time to cook them. I used burgers as an example in previous videos in this series. I like turkey burgers as my replacement for cheeseburgers. It's still faster and easier to have a frozen burger that I know is healthy than it is to make my own healthy turkey burgers. So, yes, you don't have to use meal replacements, but you do have to find the things that replace those. The second thing that you absolutely need are fast and convenient options. And I'll highlight two separate areas. First, meal replacement make it easier to plan, to grocery shop. When I really want to make sure that I'm on track, I'll plan on having a shake for breakfast every day. When I sit down at the beginning of the week, if I'm thinking about doing meal prep or I'm thinking about grocery shopping, I can just write down shake for breakfast every day. And my whole planning for the entire week is taken care of. I might go and pick up some different fruits or flavorings for the shakes, but the whole mental stress of having to think that out is done. If I want to have an entree for lunch at work, I no longer have to plan packing my lunchbox and what's going to go in it. The night before work, I don't have to pack it all up, or in the morning if I'm rushing and running late, I don't have to put it together. Meal replacements can help streamline that planning and preparation process. So think about that. If you're not going to use as many meal replacements, how do you streamline the preparation process? One good example of that is having a recipe book that you can draw from. That will streamline the planning process because you know your favorite stuff is there and you can really easily pick the things that you want. Meal prep is another example of how to streamline that process. If on Sunday you spend a bit of time cooking everything you need for the week, then when the week goes on, you don't have to spend as much time day to day doing that preparation. Right? There are other options, you just got to find those other options if you don't want to use as many meal replacements. The other area where I say speed is important is in actual cooking. And I guess we touched on that a little bit already, but the classic example of where meal replacements are helpful is when you're running late or you're busy and you don't have time to prepare. It's all the times that you would normally pick up fast food or go to a convenience store or eat a bag of chips or something because you just don't have the time or the energy to actually make the meal. Work sessions, we'll see that a lot. If you don't know when your lunch break is, if you have a really quick lunch break, or if you're normally working and helping customers and stuff while you're eating lunch, you're going to need something that solves that need. And evenings are really classic examples of this. If it's late and you're tired and you've been working all day and you get home and you don't want to have to cook, even if it takes 10 or 20 minutes, that might be more time than you want to invest. and that's enough of a reason for you to swing by and pick up a cheeseburger on the way home. That is something that you're going to need to solve. If you don't want to use meal replacements, again, that's okay, but you're going to need a list of meals that you can have very quickly, that don't take a lot of preparation, that are super easy for you. I think a good example of this is canned tuna. Something that's very fast and easy to throw together if you need a quick meal. Raw fruits and vegetables are also kind of really helpful for those situations. And there are a lot of other options, but just make sure that you do know what those options are. In addition to that, you need things that are easy to portion size, easy to portion control. Again, this is kind of obvious, that's what meal replacements are, but if you feel like whenever you cook pasta, you have a hard time keeping it to where you want it to be, or if you feel like every time you cook chicken, your portion size is just more than you want it to be, these are decent foods. We're not even talking about cheeseburgers and cookies and stuff. We're talking about modest, moderate, decent foods. If you feel like you have an issue with portion sizing for those things, you do have to figure out what the shortcuts are, what the easy ways to control portion are. Of course, you've heard advice like buying smaller plates or using smaller utensils. I really like the advice of buying prepped, separate individual portion sizes for some of those things. Like when I buy chicken breasts, I buy where they're individually wrapped chicken breasts. So I just have to grab one. I don't have to peel into a whole package. That stuff could be easier. Okay. I also really like, as an example, to use pulled chicken, shredded chicken, instead of whole chicken breasts, because for me, it's easier to take a scoop and measure out a cup of chicken than it is to try and visualize what a serving of chicken might be. There are lots of those kinds of shortcuts that are out there, but you're going to need stuff like that if you're not going to use as many meal replacements as well. And finally, I think you're going to want to think about cost. This is actually one of the biggest pieces of kickback that I get against meal replacements. The thought that they are more expensive. And often, yes, prepared meals can be more expensive than if you cook them for yourself, but there are a couple of circumstances where it makes sense. One of them is if you're eating something and you're really the only one who's eating it. For example, I like stuffed peppers, but nobody else in my house eats stuffed peppers. It's less expensive for me to buy a frozen prepared stuffed pepper meal than it is to go out and get ingredients and make stuffed peppers, where I'm going to have leftovers and I'm going to have to figure out, what to do with the excess food. It's cheaper to just buy one. It's easier to just buy one. So there are a lot of circumstances like that, often during the holidays, where I'll see clients who want maybe a certain side dish or a certain pie flavor or something like that, and nobody else is going to eat their pie because they're making it healthy without a bunch of extra sugar and cream and calories. So they know they only really want to make a small portion of it. They don't want all the excess. Sometimes it's easier to buy a prepared option, and again, less expensive. The other option that I'll highlight for you is anytime, again, that restaurants will come into play. Specifically for me, when I travel, it's cheaper for me to carry some prepared entrees and have those in my hotel room than it is to eat out every meal. A lot of times what I'll do is take entrees and I'll eat those for lunch, and then I'll go out for dinners or I'll go out for breakfasts. But it allows me to streamline my planning when I go on the trip. I don't have to think as much about what I'm going to do while I'm there. It allows me to keep my grocery shopping to a minimum if I just have a stack of meals that I'm taking with me. And it allows me to save money by not going out to eat every meal. So there are options where even cost can be affected in a good way by using meal replacements. I think there are a lot of different examples of where meal replacements can be helpful for someone, and I just wanted to highlight in a quick video here where these tools come into play. If you use them in the short term, it will make the weight loss easier. I think one of the main places where meal replacements are helpful is that if you want to learn how to do all those things in the long term for yourself, meal replacements make it easier in the beginning. I can use these shakes and entrees while I'm trying to learn all this other stuff, while I'm practicing with cooking, while I'm trying to find the tips for meal prep, or while I'm trying to find the tips for travel and those sorts of things. Sometimes keeping things simpler at the beginning will allow you to study and learn and build up your knowledge so that you're better prepared for those things long term. So I'll make that recommendation to you. Again, if you choose not to use as many meal replacements, that's a freedom that you have. It is probably a mistake because the data shows people get almost double the weight loss when they have some of their choices made for them. If I don't have to think about it and I just know it's good, all the work is done and I'm good. But if you choose not to do it, it's all good. Just make sure that in the long term, you have solutions. So as far as the answer to the question, am I going to become dependent on the shakes and entrees? Will I have to use them in the long term? The answer is no. There are lots of options that you have, but you will have to find those options. That will take time and experimentation. You may want to think about having a good community where you can ask questions, coming to a live group, or attending maybe a live stream online where you can ask questions to a very handsome and knowledgeable health educator that can help you with that part of the process. That might be helpful. I'll just throw that out there to you. But if you choose not to use meal replacements, that's very much an option. You just have to have the solutions. If you find meal replacements helpful, do not feel guilty about having them in the long term. People have been using frozen meals and packaged products and fast food to make it easier to monitor their groceries on a weekly basis forever. That's not a weight loss thing. We have always been looking for these tools that make it faster and simpler. The only thing that we're adding in place now is that we're trying to make sure that those tools are also healthy. So don't feel guilty about it if you do want to use them in the long term. And if you end up finding a routine where it works best when you use them long term. If it works, take your benefits, feel happy, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Thank you for watching this video. I know this was a bonus. This was an extra one in addition to everything else. You didn't have to watch it, but I hope that it clarified a couple of things for you. Certainly helped me get a couple of things that were on my mind. But watch the rest of the videos in the series, and as always, if you have questions, find a way to get in touch with us. Thanks. Bye.